morning, guys. Welcome back to Ashes to Dust City Stead, where I am growing and preserving in Zone 4, Central Wisconsin. It is January 6th today, and it is 15 degrees outside. I have been staying inside. Actually, that's a lie. I have to go out very frequently and check my chickens to see if they have laid any eggs because they immediately freeze and crack open. And as you know, if the shell is cracked open, it is unusable, especially if it's in the chicken coop where bacteria can get inside that egg. You no longer want to use that. I could cook them up and feed them back to the chickens, but it just seems like a ton of extra unnecessary work right now. So they've been going in the garbage, unfortunately. But the sun is shining gorgeously today, even though it is 15 degrees outside. That is the one benefit to whenever it is freezing cold like this, the sun is normally bright and shiny. So that's a lot nicer than however it was over Christmas. And as you know, I ended up getting COVID, so I was stuck in the house anyway. But it was just very dreary and very overcast, no sunshine, foggy. It was very foggy. It was not cold. It was probably in the 40s, which is unusual for Wisconsin in December. But nonetheless, we got through it. Now, winter is the season for me to be canning up broths. My last video, we canned up some turkey broth in my new canner that I got for my mom for Christmas. My beautiful berry blue all-American canner. And today I'm going to be showing you how to can up venison broth. It is literally the exact same as turkey broth. I have to filter the broth. I've been, my fiance Dustin ended up harvesting some deer this gun season, and we are now we have filled our freezer with a ton of meat, and now I'm finishing processing the rest of the animal so none of it goes to waste. I feel like if we're going to take a life to sustain a life, meaning harvest an animal, every part of that animal should be used. As I see it, that animal sacrificed its life for us to sustain our life, so we need to take full advantage of everything that we can and not let anything go to waste. So what I've had going in my Nesco is a lot of deer bones and some of the neck bones that we were able to salvage. And that is going to make a delicious broth that I'm going to be able to use in soups, stews. I actually just made a delicious venison stew yesterday, and then we went ice fishing, and it was freezing. When I tell you it was 0 degrees, it was 0 degrees. Actually, I think that might have been with the wind chill, but it was, it wasn't warm out. It was so cold, and we were out ice fishing, and so it was really nice to come home and have a nice, huge, steaming hot pot of venison stew ready for us. And then all I had to do whenever I got home was bake up my bread, and we had a delicious, nutritious, heartwarming, gut-warming dinner, and we'll be able to eat that. We'll probably eat on it for the next few days, and whatever is left I will probably end up freezing or putting it through my canner, just so we have at a later date. That would be super convenient to have some venison stew shelf stable on my shelf for days like whenever my fiance, he's on the fire department in our town, and Mondays is typically whenever he has drill after work, so sometimes I'm not home. I could be running errands or whatever else. He can just take that off the shelf and warm it up over the stove, and he's got a healthy, nutritious, sustainable, protein-packed meal. Alright guys, just coming back to show you my Nesco. This is the venison bone broth that I have in here. This has been processing for a couple of days. I've had it simmering, and now I've turned the heat way, way, way down so I can handle it, that it's cool enough to the touch so I can handle it and put it in jars and process it. Alright guys, I am back with canning our venison bone broth today. What you didn't see me do on camera is I took out most of the bones. I have them in this huge stainless steel bowl that I have. Okay, here is my venison broth, and here's everything that I took out of it. Don't be alarmed if whenever you take all the bones out that your level has gone down quite a bit. As you're simmering this, of course, some of the water evaporates off. I simmered mine for probably about 48 hours, and then I ended up having to stick it outside. So guys, like I said, I ended up simmering my venison bone broth for about 48 hours. And then, like I said, it is, well below freezing temperatures here in Wisconsin. So I ended up just putting the cover on the Nesco insert and taking it outside, and it froze, and it was frozen solid outside for probably 2 days before I could bring it back in and start simmering it again. And then I simmered it for another 24 hours. And now here I am taking everything out. You want to leave it at a nice low simmer. The highest I ever had this was about 225, and it kind of started bubbling a little bit too much for my liking, and I turned it way back down to that 150 mark. But you don't want it to boil too hard for too long, because you'll end up ruining it or burning it. In an Nesco, it's really easy to burn things. But I'm going to go ahead and discard these bones, and we're going to get our bone broth canned up. Before I get all set up here, I want to talk to you a little bit about these lids. Now these are superb lids. This will only be the second time using them for me, but they are really beautiful. They're nice. Look at the inner seal on this is just, it's thick, it's nice and cushy. I feel like these lids are very well made. They are made in the USA. Now I got these at one of my local Mennonite stores. If you are not lucky enough to have one of those near you, I really feel for you. I can go there and I can find my King Arthur bread flour, my Redmond's pink sea salt, these superb canning lids, just anything in bulk that I could ever want, and they have it there, and it is so fairly priced. I can't even tell you how often I run there. I'm actually about to go there today after I get this batch of broth done in the canner. I've got to go pick up some more salt. And you can get, they have raw cane sugar there, they have everything. So if you can, I would highly recommend looking for a bulk Mennonite food store. That's where I've got my, what is this? My stainless steel funnel. I got that from there. I have it's something like 20 quarts large, 20 quarts big, a big stainless steel bowl. I can go ahead and show you that. It's huge. It's got all the scraps from the bone broth in it. I don't know how to show this to you here. Whew. This bowl is just massive. Here is my hand for reference on this bowl. It is just massive. It's so big. And this is great for, sometimes I will do a double batch of bread and let it rise in this, let it proof in this, and then I have no qualms about whether it's gonna bubble over the top or be spilling over the sides or get stuck to the cloth I put on it. So yeah, let's get into canning this up, guys. We're gonna jar this up. I'm gonna run it through a mesh sieve, and then I'm gonna put that on top. I'm gonna put that on top of my funnel, And I'm just going to get these all canned up. You want these to be at about 1 inch of headspace. Since there is no solids in this, it is completely liquid. You can have, you don't have to have that much of a headspace. I also just want to preface this video by saying that I am doing just a tiny bit of Rebel canning today. You see I have all these classic ball or mason jars. I also have these Atlas mason jars that are, they are used over from like spaghetti sauce or Alfredo from the store. A regular mouth canning lid fits on these perfectly, and I just reuse these. So if you're uncomfortable doing that, don't follow this. Use the FDA approved jars, if you will. Since this broth is hot, I've gone ahead and make sure that I have my canner turned on. That way I don't create a shock and end up breaking any of my jars. We're gonna go ahead. This is a trick I learned from Carolyn at Homesteading Family. This is just plain white vinegar. You want to wipe the rims of your jars very, very well. There's a lot of grease and food particles that can build up on the edges of your jars. And if that is there, while it's in the canner, it won't let your lid seal to the jar. So you want to make sure that these are just super clean No nothing on any of these jar rims. Okay, and always remember, center your lid, put on your ring, fingertip tight, no tighter. If you crank these on too tight, they'll end up buckling inside your canner, which means the lid will pop out instead of sucking in, and then you will not get a seal because it will have concaved the opposite way that you need it to. Like I was telling you before, I'm doing a little bit of rebel panning. As you can see, that superb regular mouth lid and ring fit on here beautifully. All right guys, it's time for me to load up my canner, get my quart-sized jars inside my pressure canner, and start to get them up to pressure. My canner will fit 7 quart-sized regular mouth jars. Last jar. Okay, now if you remember anything about this canner, this is an All-American. It has a metal-to-metal seal, so there's no gasket, and there's also arrows that you need to line up to make sure that it has the correct seal. So you want to line it up just like that, and then slide it on, and then you're going to go ahead and do your clamps opposite to each other. And you don't need to crank these very tight either. Just make sure it's on there, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, before you screw your lid on, make sure you have at least a couple inches of water in the very bottom of your canner. If you run your canner without any kind of water in there, you're gonna ruin your canner. I don't know about you, but I ain't about to ruin a $500 canner. Okay, fingertip tight on these guys. You don't want to crank them on too hard. I have my arrows lined up. Get all these clamps on. Okay, we're gonna turn our heat up to about a 9. We're gonna let this vent for 10 minutes. When it starts to vent, we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. And then we're gonna go ahead and put our gauge on, our weighted gauge at 10 pounds of pressure for, I think, 20 minutes. All right, guys, don't know if you can hear it, but my canner is venting, so I have a timer set for 10 minutes. Alright guys, it's time for me to put my weighted gauge on my canner. It's come up to boiling, it's vented for 10 minutes, so here we go. Alright, so I'm getting ready to put it on at the 10-pound mark. There we go. Now we have to wait for it to make like 4 jiggles a minute. It's got to come up to 10 pounds of pressure on this little gauge here too. Alright guys, my timer is just going off. So we're going to turn this off. And we're going to turn the heat all the way off. And then you need to wait for this to come down all the way to 0 pressure down here before you take this off. Forever, ever, ever, never forget to do this. If you were to just take this off right now, the pressure inside your canner is not able to regulate, and so every single one of your jars in here has the potential to bust open. And this is broth in here, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to risk losing something that I have spent hours upon hours on. This broth in here is liquid gold, you guys, so make sure that you always let your gauge come down all the way to 0 pressure in your canner before you take your weighted gauge off.